Welcome to the FilmFestival Cottbus 2020, and hello to Romas Zabarauskas, the director of The Lawyer. Thank you very much for your time and your wonderful film.
Hello, thank you so much for your kind words, and congratulations with holding this festival during such a difficult time, and I'm so honored to be a small part of this festival.
So at first I'm very interested in how did you get started on The Lawyer?
So there was a private story that I cannot share, but also there was another private story that I can share. It was a loss of my father. So my father died unexpectedly from a heart attack 4 years ago, and it made me rethink a lot of things in my life, and that's where the inspiration, so to say, for the grief comes in The Lawyer. And then in terms of political context, well, I'm always interested in what's happening in the world, and I'm interested in an opportunity to contribute and to represent what's happening in the world and represent that diversity, especially in Lithuania. And so I was interested in that political context as well. And unfortunately, it stays relevant till today, because basically Syrian war and the refugee crisis didn't really end, and we still have those problems. And then I also work in that way that I research a lot. And so I researched for The Lawyer. I spoke with Syrian and other refugees at the Krnjača camp in Belgrade, where I went to research. I spoke with some Syrian gay refugees online. I also went to Lebanon, Beirut, to meet the first LGBT Arab organization. And so it's a neighbor country of Syria. Of course, it's different context, but still I wanted to kind of have firsthand conversations about what it is to be LGBT person in the region. And then I read some books, and I consulted the script with my Syrian classmate, Anmar Hijazi, who is a journalist working in Paris. So I really made an effort to research, to talk with people who have these experiences firsthand, and to introduce them into the fabric of the film. So yeah, so it was inspired by my personal loss, by a personal story that I cannot share, and then by all this research to conclude.
And also what I found very interesting was these ambivalences in the film, that you have, for example, Marius, who doesn't know in a way if in the beginning if Ali just wants to get into Europe or if it's real love. And then you have also the opposite, that Ali is very dependent on Marius. Were these also thoughts that you had in the beginning, or did you come up with them during research?
Well, one of my initial motivations in a political way was that, well, how to say, this subject, this political context is portrayed in the media often. And but my problem is that we hear only the most tragic stories oftentimes, and the refugees are portrayed in the media, in the Western media, as victims or as heroes. But in a way, I think the audience becomes numb, or the reader becomes numb, and it's kind of difficult to identify, because it becomes not human anymore sometimes. So for me, it was very important to show both of these characters as human beings, as flawed, as not perfect, not victims, not heroes, but as humans who have their own problems and issues and subtleties. So I think that was my motivation why I wanted to include this nuance. And I think what you described remains an open question in the film. So I don't know if I can answer that definitely, like, what you are supposed to read as the viewer. I think it's open to interpretation, but I think also for me it's important to have to pose the question in between the lines: can we really judge Ali even if he just wants to go to Europe? I mean, maybe like wouldn't anyone want that in his situation? I mean, who are we to judge? For me, that was important to kind of, even if there is that ambiguity, which I will not say, which is the right answer, but even if there is that ambiguity, for me, it was important to portray it in that way, that we understand where that could be coming from, and there is no judgment to that ambiguity. At least there is no judgment for me.
Yeah. To me, it also felt like Marius wants a long-term love relationship with another man based on mutual faithfulness or something like that. And during the watching, I thought, I can't remember if I've ever seen this kind of gay man in a lead in a film before. Was it also one of your main goals to show a more diverse view on the queer community?
I think definitely. Well, so because there is that conversation with friends, dinner party at the beginning of the movie, and Marius says that he wants a long-term relationship, and then his friend says, "Yeah, that's why you fuck everyone." Like, so there is this irony that at the beginning of the movie, it seems that Marius is dating many men, and it's, I think, for the viewer, you can question whether he's being very sincere, but then maybe that's the thing that changes with the movie, that maybe he does want to have that deeper connection. And for me, it was important to show diversity of queer community, or even more so to kind of open up those discussions that I think are important in our community. I think it's interesting because there are many movies that focus on relationships between two men or two women also, but oftentimes those relationships are shown in a vacuum. So it's just two men who fall in love with each other, but they're not gay, they're not bisexual, or they're not shown in that context. But I think that for a lot of LGBT people, in fact, it's very important that we are part of that community, that we have other LGBT friends, and I wanted to show that. I didn't want to shy away of that. And then within that community, there are a lot of different point of views on relationships, on sex, on fidelity, and on politics. And I wanted to show a little bit of that as well. So I'm glad you noticed that. I'm very excited.
And your film also has a very clean and beautiful look and a very high production value. I would say actually it looks pretty rich overall. Could you give me a little insight to your visual concept there?
Well, rule number one, make films about rich people because there are nicer things, nicer, decor, but no, not necessarily. But yeah, well, definitely. Thank you so much. This was my third feature film, but it was my first feature film that I got Lithuanian film centers money for the production. So the budget was a little bit over 300,000 euros. And I don't think it's a big budget for a film that was shot in between Lithuania and Serbia, but we really made an effort for it to look good. And I don't know, I'm really grateful for the cinematographer, Narvidas Naujalis, who, by the way, has shot also another film at Cottbus, Isaac. So that's crazy. And then I'm grateful for art designer, Giedrė Valeišaitė. And we really made an effort together to find the color scheme and to really think about the colors and think about the way that the film will be shot. And I think it's interesting because the film isn't shot in a very complicated way. It's pretty easy. It's just we used a contrast between very simple close-ups on the main characters and then some wider shots that would be set up in a more visual way. So, because I think in a lot of art house movies nowadays, there is a lot more distance and like filmmakers avoid close-ups, but I don't, because I really want to focus on close-ups, on actors, on relationships. So I'm not afraid of that. But then visual style is established by contrasting it to more visual setups, I think. And also, I don't know, and I'm inspired by melodrama, including Hollywood melodrama, and for this film as well. And so we really wanted to have that feel of strong visuals. Yeah.
In an interesting turn in the end, we see that Marius and Ali, they steal the passport from somebody else. So there is somebody else who's left in a big.
You should put the spoiler alert.
Spoiler, yeah, I can do that. And I was left with the question there that. What have we done to achieve our happiness in a way? So was that something that you thought about as well during the process of writing, that this end, is there any possibility of a happy end, because it feels half happy in the end, you know?
Yeah, well, I think it's comparatively happy ending, but it's also an open ending. When we were screening in Lithuania, a lot of people asked if there will be like a sequel. No, yeah, like a follow-up. But I don't know. I don't think there will be. But definitely, people are left to interpret their own ending a little bit. But I think it's a paradox in a way, because it's a film called The Lawyer, and it's about the lawyer, but the only way he can help is actually doing something illegal. And that kind of shows the political reality, because there is a lot of bureaucracy in asylum procedures. And, I think the pandemic kind of froze the topic of refugee crisis, but it didn't really disappear. It's still very much an important topic, and we will still need to find solutions to it. And I don't know, well, European Union and United States will be introducing like new solutions. I think as a civil society, we need to kind of stay vigilant, and we need to ask for faster, more effective, and less bureaucratic solutions. And so in a way, the ending is very political in that way. In the other way, in a romantic way, I mean, I think, it's quite optimistic, because it's doing something for that connection, for that relationship. And I mean, again, it's a little bit open to interpretation, but I think it's quite optimistic.
Mm-hmm. And what are you doing these days in the lockdown? Are you having a lockdown? Are you working on anything new? How's your life looking?
Well, yes, we have a second lockdown right now in Lithuania. I mean, usually I'm working at home online, so I continue working. And currently I'm developing a few things and waiting for replies, which is a lot of times part of my work, waiting for replies. But for now, I cannot share much about the new projects, but I'm very happy with how The Lawyer travels despite the pandemic. We really were accepted to almost 20 festivals right now and got distribution deals. So it will be still presented to the viewers next year, including Germany. Profan Media will distribute it commercially one way or another, depending on how everything goes. So I'm very happy and I'm involved in that, trying to promote the movie. And I'm so happy that it connects with the global audiences.
And have you any release dates for the film already?
Well, yeah, so in Lithuania, we had 5-week theatrical run in between of the lockdowns this autumn. So that was great. And in Germany, well, it might have been already released, but you know, as you know, the cinemas are closed. So I don't know what to say. It's difficult to prognose, but within few months it will be released one way or another. And it's already released online in the United States, Canada, Poland, and also on this Taiwan-based website. And it will be still screening in different festivals and perhaps in cinemas in some countries. But that really is a little bit difficult to say. But if people follow me or our film on social media, they'll be the first to know. So.
All right, then thank you very much for this Q&A and good luck to the further way of the film.
Thank you so much.